and now it's signed to Eric instead of the Phantom for the first time.
This is like Naughty Boy.
Naughty Boy. Hello, welcome to Guide to the Unknown. I'm Kristen.
And I'm her little brother, William.
And this week, we are talking about the Phantom of the Opera, but for a very specific reason.
Yes.
So, last month on October 13th, Friday the 13th, Will and I did something that we called the Demon Drive, where we had a Friday night live hangout, and a ton of you came, which was so awesome. And it was called the Demon Drive because we were also introducing clips from our Patreon to people and hoping that they sign up at the Demon tier.
And many did, thank you.
And they did, thank you so much. And just kind of giving a little preview. So one of the things that we did was play a game. And the stakes were that whoever wins gets to choose a topic for the loser to cover.
Yes.
Which can obviously include things that they might not like because that makes it funny.
Yes. So you want to pick something that the loser really doesn't want to do. You want to have some reason to fight to
Right.
really win.
Yeah, you have to want to live.
But Kristen forgot how much of a destroyer I am.
It's absolutely true. Will crushes in like any game he plays.
Let's not also don't forget though, I don't want to downplay how strange it is that you can't hold your breath. Or no, you did fine with holding your breath. Blinking, you couldn't even go like 5 seconds without blinking.
I could not.
That was a weird one.
Do it. And actually the other day I noticed myself not blinking for a little bit and I was like, let's see how far I can let this ride. And it couldn't go very long, but I was like, if only I'd had that power.
If only.
Last month, but I didn't have it. So Will absolutely swept the floor with me. He could not blink way longer than me. He could hold his breath just a little bit longer than me. And what else? We played some games like on the computer.
We played Trivia Murder Party, and but so I did end up sweeping the games.
He mopped the floor with me.
But I also I didn't really know what to pick to punish Kristen. Do you feel punished? Was this a chore?
No.
Damn it.
Shockingly, though. No. So Will picked the Phantom of the Opera because I have, as he recently pointed out to me, recency bias, which I haven't heard of before, but it's where you don't like things that are old.
Yeah.
But specifically entertainment-wise, at least for me. Is it for everything, or is that a phrase for entertainment?
No, I think I've largely seen it used for entertainment at least.
Yeah, only entertainment.
If it's like old, grainy, black and white, made in the 30s and stuff, Chrissy tends not to have any interest in that. And I get it.
I'm more turned off by it.
I get it.
Yeah.
Like modern stuff has modern pacing and modern storytelling conventions.
Yeah.
And the further back you go, people were still figuring it out. And there are 20 minutes of credits before the movie starts. It's all backwards.
I'm not proud of it. I think it makes me sound a little bit stupid, but it is just a fact. So that's what's going on.
I think it's fine.
I think it's basically fine too. But so Will assigned me Phantom of the Opera. Okay, I am truly, genuinely shocked.
Okay.
I really liked it. I watched the 1925 silent Phantom of the Opera.
Wow.
And when I say silent, do you think there's... Well, I can't say it giving a hypothetical.
I would assume a lot of silent films, the way that they're presented today, because a true silent film was they were able to capture the image, and then if there was any audio at all, anywhere, it was like somebody playing a keyboard, somebody playing a piano in the room while the movie was playing.
Yes.
So there was never audio married with footage.
Right.
In a lot of those cases.
Right.
So even some of like, if you watch like Nosferatu today, my understanding is that that's like score that somebody edited on top of the film. It may have been score like of music written for the movie, but it's not as if it was screened and they had audio playing.
Yeah, they didn't have the capability of recording picture and sound at the same time.
Simultaneously,
So looping together. This was 100% silent.
Okay.
There was no...
Pin drop silent.
Yeah, I mean, I really thought that there was going to be some music behind it. Like, think of like a Charlie Chaplin movie or something. You hear music, even though you see him just like waddling around or whatever.
Real quick, what's his name?
Charlie Chaplin?
Okay, I thought you said Charlie Chapman.
Maybe I did.
Not that it would be the worst thing in the world, but I was curious.
Yeah. But no, this was completely silent, which I didn't know when I started it. Like, even when I set out to watch it, I was like, okay, so it's like a really old movie. And then I saw it's a silent movie. And I was like, oh, crap.
I do like the idea of you being in a room where you have to watch a silent film. That I'm bummed that you seem to view it all favorably, and I'm curious to find out how it all went.
I'm
and
shocked.
Admittedly, I don't know anything about the Phantom of the Opera, so this all backfired. Because you know that I like to like get in the weeds. I like to look at old stuff.
I know.
But because of this, I had to sit on my hands. And
you really just pranked yourself.
I pranked myself because I didn't. This week, Kristen specifically, I don't know how you ended up having this power over me. Last week, Kristen told me that I'm not allowed to do any research for this episode.
No, because it completely negates the whole premise of our contest, that one person gets to chill and the other person has to do something crappy.
I don't chill. I like to know.
You have to. Well, I'm going to tell you.
All right.
So anyway, I was like, oh, God damn it. And I went into it assuming that, you know what, why don't I watch this up to basically when the Phantom reveals his real face, and then I will switch to the 1940-something Universal version of this, which has sound, has dialogue, all of that. And I was like, but I'll just get a feel for it. And I ended up liking this silent movie. I'm really surprised.
I'm thrilled.
So, first of all, recommend, not recommend? Shockingly, I recommend it.
You recommend a nearly 100-year-old movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's from 1925. I truly, and often I'll recommend things with caveats, but I can recommend it kind of like blindly, because I would say if I hadn't seen it for me, I'd be like, no, you wouldn't like that. I didn't think I would. And I really did.
That's great. How long is it?
It is about an hour, a little less than an hour and a half. I think
wow. I'm
was
surprised
like,
it's that long, to be honest.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I think it's like 125-ish or something.
I have to admit, I don't think I really know much of anything about the Phantom of the Opera.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So what do you got?
I honestly, I can recognize the Phantom of the Opera as a boy, oh boy, you know, like an icon. That feels like such a weird word in today's parlance.
I know.
Like, he's not iconic, but it's like he is.
But he is an icon of like the early Hollywood monsters.
Yes, wearing the little white mask.
Yeah.
And playing the organ, obviously. And I know that there was a Broadway play that was tremendously successful, or is tremendously successful, don't know.
It was the longest running play on Broadway, but it stopped in 2012.
Oh, wow. Okay. And I know that when we lived in Missouri, we saw a production of it done at the local Y.
Yeah.
Which made us laugh.
I wonder if Mom remembers that or not.
So much.
Our mom is watching the live feed, which is at youtube.com/GTTUpod.
That's right.
We do it live every week. Yep.
But so, never having seen the original Phantom of the Opera, certainly not the Broadway version.
Yeah.
I imagine there was a scene where the Phantom teaches a woman how to sing, or they have some sort of a duet.
I mean, maybe. So I have seen the Broadway show, I realized twice, because I got it as a birthday present, first of all, from a family member who doesn't know me at all and is not in our lives anymore. And then I went...
Doesn't know me at all. Was it the same family member that gave me like an Eagles cassette and then a Bruce Springsteen album?
Yes.
That had Radio Nowhere on it?
Yes. Correct.
Okay.
She sucks. We're not just being mean. She's terrible.
We're it turns out we're related to a big pig turd. Someday we'll tell the story of the pig. Trust me, it's warranted.
Yeah, it's very bad. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, I went with her to see it at some point in life. And then my friend got tickets for her birthday, my dear friend Rosie. And I went with Rosie to go see it again. She asked me to go. And while we were online for it, the man who was standing in front of us, I've seriously never seen anything like this before or since. And this is 100% true. The man in front of us in the ticket line was flexing his butt cheeks one at a time. Just boom, 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 boom. Just in line for tickets. Lights on, you know what I mean? There's no cover of darkness. He was wearing like khakis and a sweater or something and just flexing them. It was so crazy. Rosie and I were like dying laughing and like stifling it. It was so nuts.
Like when an American gladiator flexes their pecs one after the other or something.
I can't tell you. I mean, if it's hard to believe. It's like, why would that guy be doing that? It really happened. It was so weird.
That's so bizarre.
It was unbelievably bizarre.
So I totally blew it because I picked a punishment for you not realizing that you're like a Phantom of the Opera nut. You've seen multiple productions. I feel ripped off. This is garbage.
I'm a Phantom stan. Well, I remembered like nothing about it. I'm not kidding. Like I basically remember that guy.
Yeah.
And I remember what do you call this? It crashes in Clue. It falls on a chandelier. A chandelier falls down. That's like the big centerpiece of the thing. I'm not kidding. I didn't remember anything. And I wrote down what I vaguely remembered going into this. And to be fair, it could be this is what happens in the Broadway play.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is basically all I know about it. My guess.
Well, so real quick. So I never saw the Broadway play, but we did see this production at the YMCA, I guess,
sure
right?
did, yep.
Like in Missouri. And instead of having a scene, and again, I'm making a major assumption because I don't know anything about the actual show.
Yeah.
But there was indeed a scene in the Y version.
Oh, there sure was.
Where the Phantom is going to teach a person how to sing. And the song he chose seemed like it was dumbed down because perhaps the YMCA Missouri 1997 performers weren't adept to do an opera?
Perhaps. And I have to say, I think that this didn't happen in the Broadway versions.
Oh, I'm sure this didn't happen in the Broadway versions.
But because I feel like I would have run back and told you, like, oh my God, they did the Bobo thing.
Okay.
And I
yes.
didn't.
He basically is like, I shall teach you my ways of singing. And then there's a swell from, a Casio keyboard somewhere nearby. And he goes... Bo
woman. And it goes back and forth.
It goes back and forth
and I,
forever. For the rest of your life, they just sing bo 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 to each other.
We still do that, like all the time.
Yes, it's true.
It was so funny.
This event was like 30 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Just about. I couldn't stop thinking about the bo bo bo's. That's mostly what I know about Phantom of the Opera. He sings Bobo Bobo.
Yeah.
But there is modern context for me as well. Zoe has a book. It's very strange. She has a little golden book of Universal monsters. But for some reason, they're not just Universal monsters. They're Funko Pop Universal monsters, which is bizarre to me. But every page presents a different monster. So it'll be like the Frankenstein monster. And it's like, every monster remembers their first steps.
Yeah.
And it's like Frankenstein clomping off the table or whatever.
Yeah.
And the Phantom of the Opera, it says monsters never let a mask hide their happy face.
Oh,
but when I read to Zoe, I try to do a bunch of voices. So I'll be like, Dracula, like many monsters' bites are worse than their barks. Like I try to do a little extra sauce on it. And for Phantom of the Opera, I'm curious to know if the man talks like this at all.
Well, I don't know.
I always say, monsters never let a mask hide their happy face. I do. It's like a Jiminy Glick down and up.
Yeah.
Hide their happy face.
Yeah.
Which I think is always fun. She's never laughed at it once. Don't know if she cares or notices, but it keeps me entertained while I'm reading Funko Pop Universal Monster Golden books.
Sometimes it's just for you.
Thank you.
You know, I don't know what he sounds like because it was a completely silent movie.
Oh, you didn't see in the
Oh no, this took forever, William, because it was a silent movie.
Okay,
I
so
kept
we'll
having
never
to pause it to write things down. I couldn't just be going or anything.
Yeah.
This took a million years to do.
Okay.
So no, I did not check out any other things. However, I found out what was different between it and the book, which is very little.
Great.
And yeah. Okay. So here is what I thought that I knew about the Phantom of the Opera before I watched this movie. That there was a dude who lived beneath an opera house who has some sort of issue with his face. Maybe he was burnt, so he keeps half of it covered. And I thought that in the original movie, he doesn't have it covered and his face is just freaky. Incorrect. He does have a mask at first, which I will tell you about.
Mask, yeah.
And I said, I think he falls in love with one of the opera singers from hearing her voice or something and goes up and sees her.
Yes.
And she's freaked out by him, but eventually they fall in love and he's like misunderstood and they sing Music of the Night.
Okay.
That's all I knew. That is not what happens in the 1925 version. They do not fall in love.
Oh, okay.
But I'll tell you about this. So it's unsurprisingly in black and white. And during silent movies, the way that they would convey like plot and what's going on, besides just people acting and doing it very broadly because they need to like show as much as they
Very
possibly
big.
can.
Yes.
Since they can't actually speak.
Not only just speak, but because it's in black and white.
Right.
You have to really exaggerate your movement too.
Yes.
To make sure there's plenty of contrast so people can read the action on the screen.
Right. And I was very glad that one guy had like kind of a weird hat because it could distinguish me from all the other mustache white guys there. Other than that, I was like pretty lost.
Right.
But yeah, so they will then have like basically a title card come on the screen that has dialogue and very little dialogue. It'll be like maybe 2 sentences max because it has to be fairly big so everybody can see it. And anyway, that's how it goes. So as I'm telling you this, I will tell you some of the dialogue cards verbatim because sometimes they're just written in such like an old-timey way that's like either really awesome or really funny. But just to set the scene in case anybody doesn't know like how a silent movie worked, basically. So when we open, everybody's like getting ready for an opera at the opera house or whatever. And everybody looks pretty awesome. Like a bunch of the dudes are wearing eyeshadow like Robert Stack, not all of them, or they're wearing it to, varying degrees of smokiness, opacity. And the women aren't, which I thought was weird because when I saw the men first, I was like, oh, they must have felt like they needed to do it to define their eyes so you can see them, like stage makeup.
Sure.
Like you wear like a buttload of blush or whatever. But then this like whole troupe of ballet dancers came out and they weren't wearing it. And I was like, so why are we doing this?
Yeah, I don't know.
But whatever. So people around the opera are saying that the Phantom came up from the cellar. So we're pretty early on just being like, the Phantom is a thing that like everybody in this opera house knows exists.
Are they interpreting him, and maybe they don't know at this point, is he literally, he's not a ghost. Are they saying he's a ghost, or are they saying he's somebody that lives like in below? Like he's a monster below?
They're maybe a little bit of confusion, but like kind of like he must be some sort of supernatural being.
Okay.
Or just like a guy who has, I guess, abilities to be supernatural. Because, for example, like in the troupe of ballerinas who are talking about him, one girl is like, he came up, we're so freaked out. He had no nose. And then another girl, I don't think she says it. I think they just, she mimes it. She's like, no, and shows like a huge nose. And so it's like people are either seeing different things or just like anything. Like people get panicked and they think they see different things. But so among the people who work at the opera house, there's just a lot of confusion about like what's going on here. Who even is this person? I
love some like, contradictory claims from people, some like folkloric, here's what happened, no, here's what happened, urban legends, folklore, Blair Witch, misunderstanding.
It sounds like they all accept that there is something in the basement.
Yes.
And they just hope he doesn't come up.
He's a legend.
Because they're like, the Phantom came up. You know what I mean?
He's a rumor. That's great.
It's really good, Will. And then
I wouldn't know, would I?
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't, because that's not how our contest worked.
Because for your punishment, you got to discover something awesome.
We're supposed to change the rules after the fact?
I know.
This is what you want?
You're right. I made my bed.
I didn't think it was going to be awesome. You didn't think so. It's just luck and happenstance.
I guess I just shouldn't be so good at games.
Oh, God. All right. Anyway, someone is like, oh, let's go talk to my brother Joseph. He like knows a lot about the Phantom. He's been at this theater for a long time. And they go to talk to this guy who seems to be maybe some kind of like prop guy. And he's working on a head, like a human head that looks pretty real.
Cool.
And he even makes its eyes blink.
What?
And I was thinking, like, I can completely see this freaking out people in 1925.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Like, it's pretty scary. And he says that the Phantom is like a scary looking dude with skin like yellow parchment.
Ooh.
So stuff starts to kind of pop off with the Phantom with a signed note that he slips to somebody. He signs it, the Phantom.
Excellent.
It's so awesome. I had no idea how big a role notes were going to play in this.
Oh, okay.
Which makes a lot of sense because it's printed words that you can put on the screen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But also, he's just like dropping them places for people to find. So they're like, he was here, but I didn't see him, but he left something, which like makes it scarier.
The Phantom.
So he writes a letter to this lady who must be like a bigwig at the theater and whose daughter is supposed to sing a main role in the opera, saying that he's basically saying to her, your daughter Carlotta will not be doing this song, but Christine, somebody else who's in the company, is doing it. And if it doesn't happen, I will wreak havoc on her career. And the mom is like, oh, hell no. She's singing the song. But then Carlotta comes down ill, so she doesn't sing it. And Christine does sing this big song, Marguerite. I could not 100% tell whether the song is called Marguerite or whether the character's Marguerite, because they always say she's going to sing Marguerite. So I couldn't tell if that was the song
Sounds
name,
like the song, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Or if it's like she's acting Marguerite, she's singing Marguerite.
So this is weird. He's like an art lover, a theater lover. Yes. Lurking somewhere in the building, forcing people to produce things the way that he'd like them to be produced, or he will like poison them and make them sick.
Yeah, I guess so. This first one, which is a little foreshadowing, it's not clear, at least it wasn't to me, whether Carlotta actually got sick or something.
Okay.
Or she did fake it and like stay out or whatever. But the mom seemed so hardcore about how Carlotta will not do this that it kind of seemed like she really did get sick. I think there was just a title card that said like Carlotta fell ill.
Yeah.
So blah, blah, blah.
Remind me, this is based on a book?
Yes. It's a book from 1910, I believe. I'm just scrolling way down in my notes to find that. That was written by Gaston Leroux.
Gaston Leroux?
And they're really only tiny changes between this first movie in 1925 and the book, which I'll get to after describing the movie because they kind of spoil some stuff.
Okay.
But it's pretty faithful. But then Andrew Lloyd Webber's production of The Phantom of the Opera on Broadway is like very different. Basically what I wrote in the beginning about like them eventually falling in love is true. And
of that version
of the theater version.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's like a misunderstood guy, like everybody's scared of him, but they don't really have to be or something. He does have a dark side though, but like I don't know.
But like more like Beauty and the Beast, he's got a good core in there in the modern versions. See, that was what I was afraid of too, because I've always known of Phantom of the Opera being referred to as a universal monster.
Right.
So even the part of the reason why I picked this punishment was that I knew that you, if it wasn't made in the last 2 decades or so, maybe the 80s.
No.
You can't handle it.
I go back further.
But I was like, we'll do a universal monster.
50s and down.
And then I was like, universal monsters are kind of cool though, except I know of several universal productions that don't fit the bill.
Uh-huh.
And Phantom of the Opera, I always assumed that it was actually about the fact that he's secretly a good, kind man. It's just that his face has been horribly disfigured. And so I was like, is it also just like an insensitive, like he's a monster because he looks different?
Right.
And I was like, it's really just the Hunchback of Notre Dame or something, which, spoiler alert, I also don't know much about, and also believe that he has a Universal Monster adaptation.
And Lon Chaney plays him as well.
That's right. And so it's like, oh, he's secretly a love man.
Right. I mean, he's going, even in the play version, I believe, by the way, he's not a good guy in this at all.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
No, in the play version, even though she ends up being like, oh, I understand him, it's like, he's not good. You know what I mean? Like, he's been like obsessed with her and basically stalking her. I'm sure that if you were to look back at the play, it's probably very problematic.
Okay.
But she does end up being like, oh, I see your passion or something.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but no, in this, he's a bad guy through
and what's her name? The focus?
Christine.
Christine. Okay.
So she ends up singing because of Carlotta being sick. And there are 2 dudes who are watching this from a box seat. And so this is how you meet Raoul, who is her boyfriend.
Okay.
And he's sitting with somebody who's like, oh, I've heard Christine is a little bit more interested in this secret admirer than she is in you lately, Raoul. And he's like, And then after the show is over, Raoul goes back to Christine's dressing room to like give her a smooch. And she's kind of blowing him off a little bit. He's like, oh, now that you sang the big song, you've accomplished what you set out to do. You can leave the opera now and become my wife. And she's like, no, I love the opera and I'm not doing that.
That wasn't my swan song, chump.
No. So he leaves and he's standing outside the door, just kind of like being pissy or whatever and listening. And the title card then says that a melodious voice like that of an angel came through the walls to Christine. And it says to Christine, tonight I placed the world at your feet. To you I have imparted the full measure of my art. All of Paris will worship you. But I warn you, you must forget all worldly things and think only of your career and your master.
Whoa.
Soon, Christine, the spirit will take form and command your love. And this isn't a surprise to Christine. She's definitely talked to this voice before. She was like waiting for it. And Christine is basically like, hell yeah. Like she doesn't look upset or anything. And she says, call for me when you will. I'll be waiting. So
this is weird. This is a weird story.
It's so weird. So she sends a card to Raoul telling him that she can never talk to him again because the Phantom said, like, you have to be all his or whatever.
It's the exact opposite, which is also not great, right?
No.
Like, you must, okay, great. You sang your big song.
Guys are
now you can settle down and be my wife. And that's it. That's all you will be.
Both saying the same thing in different ways.
Yes, or you're all about the business and your career will be great, which sounds good on paper.
Sure.
But of course, your master I shall be.
Yeah, you're a master.
No, thank you. I'm good. I'm all right.
I know. So then, but like, it's not like Christine just has this role forever now. She was like Carlotta's understudy or something. She's got to do that one time. So then it's a little repetitive, but Carlotta's mom gets another letter, exact same deal basically, and shows the owners in their office. And again, she says like, there's no way I'm not doing that. Like, screw this or whatever. So she leaves. As she's leaving, like you're looking at the whole office, you see a hand come out from like behind a curtain and drop another letter onto the manager's desk and then like flourish his way out.
Excellent. The Phantom has got some style.
Oh, it's just for him a lot. There are other things that come. So, and the note he says that in the note, he says that they should take him seriously and not let Carlotta sing or else he's going to curse their opera house.
Okay.
So the next night...
It already is, P.S.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. Like, what must that mean? How much worse could it get? But Carlotta does go on to sing the next night. They don't take him seriously because her mother was pushing her. And while she's singing, and this is awesome, the lights start flashing on and off on the stage and in the whole theater. And everybody's kind of freaked out and looking around, but they come back on and it's okay. So Carlotta kind of like pulls it together and like keeps singing her song. It happens again and again. And until, as the title card says, behold, she is singing to bring down the chandelier. Oh, I know what it is. It's, you see his shadow. It is the title card. But you see his shadow like gesticulating so you can tell it's him talking.
Excellent.
And it's, behold, she is singing to bring down the chandelier. And the chandelier comes crashing down on the audience in their seats.
The audience? Not her?
No. Creating complete chaos and melee. So people were already starting to freak out again because the lights would start doing that flashing thing. By like the third time they're flashing, people are starting to get up and be like, what's going on? And then chandelier comes crashing down. It looks awesome because it's all practical, meaning not digital effects. So it's a real giant chandelier that they had, obviously safely, whatever, but like come down on people.
It's 1925. Who the hell knows?
That's true. Yeah. But they have it come down on people and you see a rush of everybody running for the doors and it's like pretty alarming. And again, all silent and I'm in.
I'm fascinated. Yeah, I think I'm going to be watching this.
I'm shocked.
Quick question for you. Have you been watching Chucky?
No.
It sounds like a non sequitur and a total aside. Mm-hmm. In the most recent season of Chucky, there's a whole episode, and this is in the previews.
Oh, yes, I saw a picture of him dressed like the Phantom of the Opera.
Yes, it's a Halloween party at the White House. The Chucky series crushes everybody. It rules.
I've seen the first 2 seasons and I loved it.
Yeah, Chucky is a great show.
Yeah.
It's just like very inventive and like that kind of horror where it's just like, it's just fun, man. And it's stupid and they know that and they're having fun. So he's at the White House and the White House has a big Halloween party and Chucky is wearing the Phantom of the Opera mask. but they use it not just to silly effect, although this is silly too, but like a character keeps almost as if they think they're seeing visions. Like Chucky will just be standing in the middle of like everybody partying at this Halloween event, and then he'll just be standing there staring at somebody and walk away, and his cloak just trails away. And it's Chucky the killer doll.
Of course.
It's so silly. But they play it like an ominous figure who's doing things in the wings to create mayhem. And the White House has chandeliers.
Yeah.
Kristen, I'm like blown away by what you're telling me. I don't want to spoil a damn thing.
Okay.
But I'm fascinated by what you're telling me and how faithfully Chucky appears to have not only just used a Phantom of the Opera mask, because it's silly to have Chucky dressed like an old, Hollywood horror character.
Yeah.
But to actually embody some of the character of the Phantom of the Opera story. I am like aghast and in shock and impressed.
I mean, I would think that they would do no less.
I'm thrilled.
Don Mancini knows what he's doing.
He does. Don Mancini,
he's the guy behind Chucky.
Damn, is like Don Mancini is like in my eyes like a
goat.
A goat.
Yeah.
Yes. Like stuck with it. He's the sole person, aside from that one weird remake.
Yeah.
He's the sole person. He created Chucky, and he has written every single entry. He got into directing by just sticking with Chucky.
Yeah.
And now they're 3 seasons deep in a show that is so inventive and fun. And it's been, what are we talking about here? Almost 40 years of one continuity. Again, aside from that one weird reboot.
Right.
It's like the last one left.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's amazing. So there is, in all this chaos, they show this kind of mysterious fellow who's wearing a different hat than everybody else.
Thankfully. God. Yeah.
And he's not the Phantom, but he's like a kind of mysterious presence who isn't panicking when everybody else is running for their lives. And like, what's his deal? And Raoul knows it must have been the Phantom. He knows something's up with this because he heard, remember, Christine talking to him in his room. And so Raoul runs to Christine's dressing room, hoping he can talk to the Phantom. But Christine comes in right after him, but she doesn't see him. Raoul's kind of like tucked behind something. So he just kind of like freezes. And he hears the Phantom say, "It's time, Christine, come to me," or whatever. And she's like, "Yes, master." And he tells her to go through her mirror in her dressing room and to have no fear. And her mirror like opens up like a door, and she goes through it and it closes behind her. And Raoul starts pounding on it and trying to go in after her to help, but he can't. And now Christine is inside with the Phantom. 2
flashbacks you just gave me.
Okay.
1, I believe the Bo 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 song is around a mirror.
Oh, I don't remember.
So it may have been to dramatize her coming over to his way.
Maybe.
And this also makes me think, which Scream 3 was attempting to do, that at the end of Scream 3, they go to a big old mansion and, disappear into secret corridors inside the walls. Mm-hmm. Scream 3 was half-assedly, admittedly, talking a lot about old horror.
Yeah.
Like 50s B movies. And I think trying to evoke some of this like classic old mansion horror.
Yeah.
And that just made me think of it as well. Like being behind the mirror is what happens to Piper Perry. What's her name?
In the movie or in real life?
Jennifer Jolie in the movie.
I love her. Why am I blanking? Parker Posey.
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, I'm in the mirror doing it. And made me think of that.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. I want to hear more.
I know. I was about to say, what will happen to Christine in the chambers?
Yes.
We'll find out after we tell you about patreon.com/GTTUpod, where you can go to support the show and get a ton of bonus stuff in return as our thank you for doing that.
Yes. This episode is sponsored by us.
Yes.
Yes. Patreon.com/GTTU is such a
GTTU pod.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is such a fun little playground of podcasts.
Yep.
For one thing, we always put up the uncut versions of the live recordings of these episodes. So some things that don't make the cut end up stored on our Patreon, including, any show that we may do before or after where we talk with the audience and stuff. So go check that out. Mm-hmm. But yes, the Netherworld Dispatch, our second podcast, lives on there as well. And I can tell you that our most recent episode was, it was called Happy Nooch Day, Willie.
We had to celebrate.
Happy Nooch Day. I turned 37 years old
You can still wish him happy birthday, by the way.
No.
Yes, or
Snooch to the Nooch Day.
Oh, Snoogans. What I said on that episode was that a great birthday present for Will would be to share work that Will has done that you have enjoyed.
Oh, that would make me very happy.
Be it a podcast, be it something that Will wrote. If you shared that this week, I think that would be completely awesome. His birthday was on Monday of this week. You'll be hearing this on Friday. So what a gorgeous way to
That would make me very happy.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chrissy.
Of course.
And yes, definitely share Guide to the Unknown. I'm very proud of this show, and I love doing it.
Yeah, me too.
So spread the good word. But so on Happy Nooch Day Willie, the episode, we looked at horror Kevin Smith stuff. So I was just talking about Scream 3 in terms of Phantom of the Opera connections. Well, guess what?
Boy, yeah.
Jay and Silent Bob show up in Scream 3. And then bizarrely, in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, the movie, they walk onto the set of seemingly Scream 4.
Right.
Where Ghostface is unmasked and it's a monkey.
It suggests all sorts of things about universes folding in on each other, and we discussed that.
And we talked all about it. So all this Kevin Smithy horror. I know that we've actually, I'll tell you what, we've gotten some Tell 'em Steve Dave folks, because I've done a few shows.
Oh, great. Hello.
With them at this point. I think they might enjoy that. Patreon.com/GTTUpod. You get Patreon. Number of tiers.
Yeah.
Find the one that fits. The top tier right now, the Demon tier, gets you a new episode of the Netherworld Dispatch every single Monday.
It also has commentary tracks for all of the Twilight movies.
Yes.
We also
start with Twilight, not Scream, which we also have.
Yes. Yeah, it's very cool.
And I have a review for us, and this is a fun one. This is a very nice one.
Uh-oh.
No. There's zero to this, but you're going to be surprised by something in it.
Okay.
From Amateur Poetry Enthusiast, who says, "Gotta love these spooky sibs. I'm a big fan of spooky stuff ranging from true crime to supernatural things. However, I've only relatively recently gotten into horror. I was always a scaredy cat growing up and unable to watch a scary movie without terrible nightmares afterwards. So as I venture into the horror genre in all media, Guide to the Unknown is like the kind guiding hand that gives me the inside scoop. Besides that, Kristen and William are so stupidly funny and sweet, and I love hearing their perspectives on things I already know about or things I'm learning about for the first time. Thanks for being a friend during COVID and beyond. Heart, heart, heart."
Thank you so much. And actually, the author of that review is in the live chat with us right now, Maggie. Maggie, thank you so much.
Thank you, Maggie.
That's so nice. What a nice review.
Guess what? It's not done, because this is a comprehensive review. Check this out.
Okay.
Update. October 20th, 2023. Edit. I have been listening for at least a year now, and my thoughts have not changed.
How nice is this?
I have since joined their Patreon, their Discord, and regularly joined their weekly live recordings on YouTube. They've created an incredible community, and I feel like I'm part of the weird, spooky family.
Oh, I love that. That's
5 stars.
great.
Thank you, Maggie, who's in the live chat right this second.
Thank you so much. That is so nice of you. I'm so glad that you're in it.
Yes.
I agree. I think it's such a great community and group of people to be able to hang out with, and I love it.
Yes, I love it. Thank you all so much. I'm so glad that you're still with us and that you're enjoying the shows that we make. Whether you've been here for a long time, whether you're brand new, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We've been trying to develop a few things on the side going forward with Guide to the Unknown that I think are going to open a lot of amazing doors if they come through.
Yep.
I'm just so excited that you guys are so supportive, and thank you.
I am too. And I just want to say we have the Discord connected to Patreon. At any tier on Patreon, we even have a $1 tier just for the Discord. You can get in that, and that's like a chat room that has like a ton of different categories, and people are talking in there like throughout the day, every day. It's such a nice group of people. There are categories for like pretty much like everything that you could think of. And if you're not part of our Patreon, we do also have a Facebook group, which is free at facebook.com/groups/GTTUpod that also has awesome people. So you can connect with other people there.
Yep.
It's just a really nice group of people all around. So maybe check one of those out if that's interesting to you.
And I love the idea that like in our little corner of the internet, we've got like, if you join one of those two things, right, you've already got a shared interest set with the other people in there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's nice.
The ice is like broken a little bit.
Yeah, the ice is a little broken already. Totally.
Yeah.
All right, tell me about Phantom of the Opera.
Okay, so I mean, this is wild stuff. So now he has taken her, into his catacombs or whatever. And it looks very cool, like the whole way. So first of all, you're going to this like stone basement area or something. What I'm not surprised to see in there is a horse.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
So there's a horse. She's not, I find later, but I thought at first she was like entranced or something, Christine. Like
a Dracula's bride or something.
Yes, because
right?
and I think they're implying that in some way, sort of, because he's leading her down these stairs. And at one point she even leans back as she's walking. Like,
oh, really?
And he's kind of holding her hand, leading her down. So it looks very, very strange. And he gets her down there and she can see him. And he's wearing a mask. Now, it's covering like his forehead, his eyes, and his nose. What I was not prepared for were two aspects of it. There is like a strange flappy part in front of his mouth, not married to the rest of the mask. It's like he put like a small thing of like rubber, like a dental dam, just like going all around the bottom rim of the mask. And then he has a tiny little black hat on his head.
How tiny are we talking? Like Terrifier?
I should say a tight hat. Not tiny.
That's weird too.
Yeah. Instead of his mask being affixed by like a satin ribbon in the back or anything, no, it's like attached to like a very thin beanie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's how Baron von Flanagan dresses.
Yes, you're right.
Well, Flanagan has a little plastic skull mask that's attached to a hat he wears when he plays a little horror character he's got.
So she now sees him and she's weirded out, but she's not running or anything. And he says via the title cards, or they're not titles. What do you call that if not?
I think today we would
Cards.
refer to something like that as a title. Yeah.
I'll just keep saying it 'cause that's what I think. He says on the title card, "Look not upon my mask, but think about the gift of beautiful music I've given you." And I guess she's like, okay.
What did he do?
I guess because
He gave her a stage by poisoning a child.
that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she faints and he puts her up on the horse and leads them into his lair. And it's a fun little sequence because they're going up and down these like crisscrossing staircases. It looks really neat. They go into the depths and she wakes up at some point during this and he helps her down from the horse and the horse just walks away somewhere. I hope that's fine. We'll never see him again.
He's just living his life.
And there is a black lake down there that they have to travel across in a gondola.
What?
And once they get to the other side, to his house, I guess, she goes in and the Phantom, with her in front, not even seeing him, opens his arms wide at a diagonal with flair as he follows her. He goes like...
Oh, just...
And then follows her in. She's in front. She can't see that he's doing this.
Flourishing
this is
back
for
there.
him.
Yes, and the real thing is to emote to the audience that he's pleased with himself or something.
Yeah, he's feeling chuffed.
But in that universe, he's just making flourishy moves and he's on a trip of his own.
Yeah, this guy's on his own journey.
This sounds like a very inconvenient place to live. You have to travel by gondola under the streets of Paris.
Yes.
By the way, some like Paris catacombs type stuff, right? Just like the city under the city.
Yeah, you're
fascinating.
Yeah, you're totally right. So, like, she's now kind of freaked out. He says, he says he's brought her there because he loves her, and she's totally alarmed and like, no. Like, that's what they have her kind of doing. I will say, I don't know why she's so surprised. He was speaking to her in a very loving and possessive manner while she was above ground. I don't really know why this is a shock to hear him say now, but whatever. She's also allowed to change her mind. But,
of course. Not having seen it, my feeling is thus.
Yes.
And again, I could be completely off base. We know that he has the means to dose people.
Oh,
right?
Interesting.
Could she, because you even described that he was like leading her hand underground and she was like leaning backwards.
Yeah.
Could she be on some sort of a sauce that he's provided?
That's not ever, they never say that, but I think it's an interesting headcanon kind of thing.
Because that would at least give some idea of like this all being sort of like dreamlike to her or something.
Yeah.
And then realizing when that wears off, like, oh, I'm in the presence of a nightmare.
This is nuts.
Who lives under the streets of Paris and travels by gondola to torment an opera house.
Right.
And has now collected me.
That's correct. So she starts running around down there in his little house, and she runs into his bedroom, which is a giant wooden coffin flanked by two huge taper candles, goals. It honestly looks awesome.
He's sleeping in a coffin?
Yeah, and there's a reason. She's scared by this, and he says, "This is my bedroom. It keeps me reminded of that other dreamless sleep that cures all ills forever."
Whoa.
Death. And now at this point, I wrote, okay, I do like this, but I'm 37 minutes in, and I have 53 more minutes to go of the silence, and it's starting to feel rough.
Oh, no.
But I kept at it, and also it came back.
Okay.
So at this point, she goes, you're the Phantom. What? Again, I thought she knew that she was talking to the Phantom.
That seemed evident.
And was happy to be taking advantage of his phantomness because it was helping her.
Right.
So I was like, what the hell is going on here? And he says, if I am the Phantom, it's because man's hatred has made me so. If I shall be... I have a typo. If I shall be saved, it will be because your love redeemed me. And he says he used to be known as Eric.
Oh, that's weak.
But
that's not enough. He needs to be Augustus Chode.
It's Eric with a K at least.
Okay.
But still. And that he's lived down there as a nameless legend for years. And she faints and he picks her up and brings her to another bedroom in there with a bed carved to look like a ship and drapey fabric on the walls and ceiling. And it honestly looks awesome.
Okay.
And then they show us...
At least he gave her own bed.
I know. I thought the same because I thought he was carrying him.
You're sleeping in my coffin with
That's
me.
what I thought at first. I was like, ew.
Yeah.
And then it goes to another room. Now they show us a newspaper that says opera singer mysteriously vanishes after chandelier disaster. We come right back to her in the Phantom's lair where she wakes up and she sees that he has put out a whole bunch of fancy pairs of shoes for her and a wedding dress and a veil.
Uh-oh.
She's got another one of the Phantom's notes that was slipped under her door that says she's in no danger as long as she never touches his mask and that she will be free as long as her love for the spirit of Eric overcomes her fear. And now it's signed to Eric instead of the Phantom for the first time.
This is like Naughty Boy.
Naughty Boy?
You know Naughty Boy.
What?
From The Black Phone.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Naughty Boy.
Yeah.
People not in the know. I believe it's a Scott Derrickson movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is outstanding. It is an adaptation of a
great.
Joe Hill short story or novel. Mm-hmm. And some man plays Naughty Boy.
Yep.
Ethan Hawke plays Naughty Boy. He wears like a devil mask. And he essentially needs people, the kids that he kidnaps, he needs them to sort of like, he's got his own serial killer ritual.
Yeah.
And he needs the kids to play their part in that ritual.
Yes.
Otherwise, he can't see it through to his satisfaction, which is murder.
Yeah.
Serial killers have like loopy rules in movies speak a lot of the time. So he needs the kids to play Naughty Boy.
Yes.
And try to escape, which gives him the justification to punish them.
Right.
It sounds like Phantom of the Opera is playing a bit of Naughty Boy. One, I find it very spooky that he's got all those shoes.
It is. It's weird that he has a whole lot of shoes and one dress and veil, but
Whose
still.
shoes are they? How many brides has he taken?
That's a great question.
Right? Don't touch my mask. Mm-hmm. That, and now I'd signed Eric. It's like she is part of some... Now, this could be that this is the first time he's ever done any of this, obviously. But like this, in modern horror speak to me, this feels like he has done this before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
And he's got a whole world view where to some people he's the Phantom, but he's becoming vulnerable with him and referring to himself as Eric.
Yes.
But it's all a very dangerous game because that mask is staying on. Mm-hmm. And that's the Phantom. So what is the danger here? You got to step very carefully, Christine.
Well, she doesn't. She almost automatically takes his mask off.
Oh, shit.
She looks disturbed. She's very like back and forth for a lot of this. For like half the movie, I was like, is she going to fall in love with him? Because she'll look disturbed and then she hears him playing the organ outside and she kind of like swoons and goes out there. And he says he wrote this piece about their triumphant love. It's called Don Juan Triumphant. You see that on the sheet music.
Some incel stuff.
Totally. It definitely is.
Don Juan.
Yeah. And but I mean, this guy is no good. He's like, oh, it's very beautiful. It's about our love. But I caution you, there's an ominous undercurrent of warning there. So like, you can't be chill for like a minute. So
the undercurrent is an overcurrent. We
got it.
There's danger, bro.
Yes.
I know.
So he's playing away, and while he's turned around doing that, she takes his mask off. So she basically comes out and instantly does it, and he turns around and yells at her while she recoils in horror on the ground because he looks freaky as hell.
Does he?
Yes. I encourage everybody out there to just Google Lon Chaney Phantom of the Opera.
I'm pretty sure I know.
I think you do. So he has, and I'm going to describe the makeup, by the way, because he did this himself, and I think it's really interesting. So here I'm going to kind of pivot for just a moment to talk about the makeup, because it's a thing. So after he was the Hunchback in Hunchback of Notre Dame in 1923, Don Chaney was once again in this given the freedom to create his own makeup.
That's so cool.
And by the way, I'm quoting from Wikipedia now. This isn't me. A practice which became almost as famous as the films he starred in. Chaney later commented, quote, "In The Phantom of the Opera, people exclaimed at my weird makeup. I achieved the death's head of that role without wearing a mask. It was the use of paints in the right shades and in the right places, not the obvious parts of the face, which gave the complete illusion of horror. It's all a matter of combining paints and lights to form the right illusion." And this is how he did it.
It's outstanding. I mean, it really is. I'm looking at it right now, and it is ghoulish and ghastly, and it's fantastic.
So what he did was he raised the contours of his cheekbones by stuffing wadding inside his cheeks. He used a skull cap to raise his forehead height several inches and accentuate the bald dome of the Phantom's skull. Pencil lines masked the joint of the skull cap and exaggerated his brow lines. Chaney then glued his ears to his head and painted his eye sockets black, adding white highlights under his eyes for a skeletal effect. He created a skeletal smile by attaching prongs to a set of rotted false teeth and coating his lips with grease paint. To transform his nose, Chaney applied putty to sharpen its angle and inserted 2 loops of wire into his nostrils. Guide wires hidden under the putty pulled his nostrils upward. And those apparently made him bleed. Sometimes it was very uncomfortable.
Oh my God.
When audiences first saw the movie, they were said to have screamed or fainted during the scene where Christine pulls the concealing mask away, revealing his skull-like features. And apparently
this is awesome. This is
totally
awesome. It's been 100 years and this rules.
It really does. And apparently his depiction of the Phantom hews the most closely to what's described in the novel. But with there are some departures. So in the novel, this isn't a departure. As in the novel, Chaney's Phantom has been deformed since birth rather than having been disfigured by acid or a fire, as is the case in later adaptations.
Right.
So she screams, she's freaked out by him. He grabs her by the hair on the floor and says,
God.
"Feast your eyes, glut your soul on my accursed ugliness." And then he lets her go and he starts crying. He runs away, covering his face or whatever. And she says to him that if he loves her, he has to let her go and she'll still do his bidding forever. And he says he'll prove the depth of his love to her by letting her go from the time being, but to remember, she is his ultimately. And if she sees Raoul again, she will kill them both. And Christine swears that she'll stick to that.
He will kill them both.
Yes.
This is, wow. So what he had said previously about the world made me the Phantom is probably partly true, right? It's his own insecurity about how he looks,
right?
Coupled with how the world is cruel to people who are different.
Yes.
And that both those things combined to make him embody being the monster the world saw him as.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
It is. And we find a little bit more about his backstory in just a little bit. So she does leave, and it immediately cuts to a letter from Christine to Raoul saying, "I need to see you."
Yeah.
At the ball mask the next night, which is their Halloween ball, basically.
Oh no, that's the most dangerous place to see him.
I know. Everybody's wearing a little mask and stuff. So
I saw Chucky.
You would think that the Phantom could slip in.
Yeah.
Guess what? No, he could not possibly be more obvious, and it is apparently by design. So this ball is rowdy as hell. It's in the opera, which looks beautiful and ornate. This thing is gorgeous to look at, which I think really helped me like it, because I just like pretty things. And so you're seeing this giant entrance to the opera hall or whatever, or the opera, and it's gorgeous. People are running around, falling over and stuff. And then the crowd parts because this person who's dressed fully awesome with a giant skull mask covering their entire head, front and back, comes in, who's wearing a giant jaunty hat with a huge feather in it, carrying a staff with a skull on the top.
Wow.
Wearing like a Shakespearean, like crazy outfit, comes into the party and everybody's like, whoa, and totally kills the party. And he says to them, there's death below your feet. The Red Death, meaning himself, rebukes your merriment. And so Raoul and Christine are like up on a balcony looking down at this, and Christine pulls him away, like, we got to get out of here. And the Red Death, who is the Phantom, hauls ass after them. So Raoul and Christine go to the ceiling of the opera house, and there is, again, it's great to look at. There's like a humongous statue of angels on the top of the opera house, and it's like 50 times their size. It looks super cool, and they're talking about the whole thing. And she's like, I saw the Phantom. He's a loathsome beast. You have to save me, Raoul. After
he is a loathsome beast, but there are some weird. It's weird.
It is weird because guess what? While they're talking, you're seeing the whole scope of the not ceiling, the roof. And so you're seeing the whole sculpture. You're seeing them down there as ants. And I was like, is there something a flapping at the very, very, very top of this humongous sculpture? And it's the Phantom up there.
That's amazing.
With his like giant cape
He's like
waving.
Batman.
He is like Batman. And he's just like listening to them, looking down and like looking mad and stuff.
Just stewing.
Looks so cool.
Yeah, I'm watching this.
I can't even tell you. And so he hears the whole
we need an affiliate code. We need an affiliate code for a 100-year-old silent movie.
That's free a bunch of places. I watched it on Tubi.
You're selling me. You need a commission.
I know. I should. So their plan is that after tomorrow night's performance of their play, Faust is what they're doing.
Oh, okay.
That they will flee to England together right after the show. And so the Phantom is like right up there grimacing as the breeze blows his cape around, and it's totally sick.
Awesome.
And then they're like, what's that sound? Do I hear something? We should get out of here. And they don't see him or anything. And then they slowly and tenderly hug for a while, which makes me think they couldn't kiss like for a loud reason.
1925, yeah.
Yeah, what's that thing called?
The Hays Code?
Yes.
I don't know what year that was.
I don't either, but like it had that kind of feel to it.
1925 is pretty early for cinema. What do I know? I don't know.
Yeah. So they head back inside, and that mysterious guy from before, the guy who had the hat that I could distinguish, who didn't seem...
A man in a weird hat?
Who didn't
that sounds like an
shocked.
old Hollywood tip, like, when you're making a silent picture, my advice, put a man in a weird hat. It helps the audience keep track.
I think it was. Yeah. It looked like it was like a velour hat. Like, can you picture like a cheesy velour rug that has kind of like texture, like in a wavy line, or like it kind of looks like
sounds like a Dumb and Dumber
finger
hat.
Waves. Yeah, sort of.
Yeah,
but like made of like velvet or something. So
Jamiroquai hat.
No.
That would be pretty surprising.
I don't even had a brim
to see a Jamiroquai man.
It was kind of like the hat a monkey who grinds an organ wears.
A fez?
Yeah, it was kind of like a fez, but taller.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So they're heading inside, and that weird mysterious guy says, "Don't go that way. Go this way." To like avoid the Phantom who has come back in, I guess. And it's like, who is this guy? Why does he know the deal?
How do you know?
So the next day, the managers are doing research on this whole deal in their like card catalog, I guess.
Yeah.
And they pull out a legit index card that they show to the camera, obviously, that says, Eric, born during the Boulevard Massacre, self-educated musician and master of black art, exiled to Devil's Island for criminal insane, escaped, now at large. And they give it to a cop.
For criminal insane?
Yeah.
Excellent.
I know. So now it's show night. Raoul goes back to Christine's dressing room beforehand, and she says she heard him again, and he knows their plans, but she still wants to just like go for it because she's terrified and maybe they can get away. And it's so weird. She's crying, and first he's wearing like little white gloves. He uses his glove to like blot the tears, and then he like licks his glove.
What?
And then she keeps crying, and he does the same with same thing with a hanky. He blots her tears and he kisses the hanky.
Oh no, she's turning in one sickie for another.
I know. That guy ain't right.
Oh no, Raul de la Noche. Yes. This is not good.
It is not good. So he says, look, don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. I have the carriage waiting for us right outside. As soon as you're done on stage, you run right out to the carriage and we're going to get out of there.
That'll work. Don't go now.
No. Well, she wants to do her big performance again, I guess.
know.
Must you? So backstage, a stagehand is getting ready for the show when he sees that somebody back there has been hanged. We just see the shadow of somebody hanging. And it turns out that it's the guy from the beginning of the movie who's like, yeah, I know some stuff about the Phantom. He's freaky looking, whatever. And so now there's an angry mob after this guy who really want to know who the Phantom is of like their stage crew or whatever. And then we see the Phantom's freaky hands replace 2 bottles in an area where people were like doing something. I think it might have been, it wasn't really clear to me. I think it might have been the people who were like driving the stagecoach or something, or like backstage people. He replaces those with 2 bottles of his own. So he's poisoning some backstage people now. MF is on a rampage. And oh my God, while Christine is on stage singing, I've also never seen this before. The conductor of the opera was sitting in a little box. You can see his whole deal. It looks like he's sitting on the toilet. He's like sitting on something. You can see his legs and his feet. He's in like a little stall, basically. It looks like the Pittsburgh toilet that's right by us now. The Phantom's hands come up, pull him down by the ankles.
Whoa.
So he like kind of
into
falls,
the toilet?
Yes. Flushes him. No, and he like kind of falls through the floor, and then he pops his head up in his place, which Christine can see.
Yes.
And so she screams. There's a whole commotion in the audience and on stage, and then she's missing.
Does he pop up in the mask or with his own face?
Mask.
Okay.
Yeah. He's masked as much as possible. So Raoul is upset, and the mystery guy says, if you do exactly what I say, I can take you to Christine. And it turns out that he is a secret policeman who has been tracking the Phantom for months, and he knows where the cellar is and everything.
Whoa.
So they go down there. That is one of the few departures from the book. In the book, this mysterious guy is present, but it turns out that he is a former friend of the Phantom.
Okay.
And so he knows some stuff. They just made him a policeman for this for whatever reason.
Yeah. It tidies things up.
Yeah. So we see Christine in the Phantom's chambers, and he's like, did you and your lover really think you could cheat the Phantom? And her hair is now down for the first time, which shows a vulnerability in her, but like a scary one. Like he's like, she's in a bad position. And he says, or I guess I was paraphrasing because I wrote, he's like, I made you. Now you'll see the evil inside that makes me look like shit. And he says, no longer like a toad in these foul cellars will I secrete the venom of hatred, for you shall bring me love. So
wow.
The guys, Raoul and the mystery guy, are making their way through to get to them and looking for Christine. They end up falling through a trap door that
this is awesome.
Oh, and by the way, the guy told I think I skipped it or something. The police guy told Raoul that the chambers that he's in, that the Phantom lives in, were torture chambers during the Second Revolutionary War.
Oh my God.
And so they fall through this hole in the floor to like a room full of mirrors and like giant fake trees. And the police guy is like, oh, this is one of the torture chambers that they used. And at first I was like, kind of doesn't seem that torturous.
Sounds like a prop room.
It looks like a prop. It's honestly quite neat looking.
Yeah.
So, they're looking around. It doesn't really seem so bad, but wait, they hear music because they are near the Phantom's room. And so the Phantom is like vibing out to music in there and like kind of like petting Christine's hair. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Now another guy they show has found the underground chambers and he's calling for Raoul. Maybe they left the door open in Christine's dressing room or something. This alarm goes off in the Phantom's actual room, and it's like a cat that has arms that go up, I guess, when somebody is there. And the Phantom is like, oh, I got to go take care of business. And he grabs something from the wall. It was like this long stick with something on the end that I wrote down is a shillelagh, which is like an Irish like beating stick kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm wrong. It's something that I could have never guessed in 1,000 million years. What he grabbed is a snorkel.
Oh my God. Oh no.
It's like an old-timey snorkel.
Oh,
because
he's going Jason Voorhees on
because
them.
he has to go through the Black Lake undetected.
He's gonna swim in the waters.
So he puts it in his mouth, and you just see the stick of this snorkel like going through the Black Lake.
He really is Batman.
He's Batman, and so he goes up to that guy who had made his way down there, who had made it to the gondola, and the Phantom pulls him under. Guy's dead. It's not good. So while that's happening, Raoul The cop and Christine are now yelling to each other because they've realized that the rooms are nearby. And when the Phantom comes back, first of all, I feel like he's starting to like crack or dissociate because he comes back sopping wet and immediately goes to sit at the organ to play.
Yeah.
He doesn't even acknowledge Christine or anything.
Yeah, he's frantic.
Yes. So she goes and like grabs something. It's hard to see what it is. It looks like it's a bag of something. I guess to like maybe try to knock him out, but he sees and he yells at her. And Raul on the other side of the wall can't stand that because that's his love. And he yells, which gives himself away. So the Phantom looks through this like little hole in his wall and he's like, I see them. And he turns on like a fire in there.
What?
Like
this rings a bell.
He heats the room up.
I think I read this book or like an adaptation for kids or something like that. This rings a bell. Yeah.
He heats the room up, and now they are absolutely sweating their asses off. So now it is a torturous room.
It's just sweaty.
They're not set on fire. He's like, oh, how will you like this heat? Not that, and like makes it really hot.
What was the other line you said? Like, now I'll show you what makes me feel shitty.
Yeah, like this is why I look like shit or whatever.
And now I will reveal to you why I look like shit. That's great. What a great line.
So now the torture room is not good. They're stumbling around and they're going nuts. It's like they've been drugged or something. And Christine is devastated and freaking out, begging the Phantom for their lives, who says they only have a few minutes to live, so she better come up with an offer for him to save them.
Oh, boy.
But they end up finding a trap door in the mirror room.
Uh-oh.
That mirror room has like a bunch of sand on the bottom of it, and they notice sand going through a little hole, and they just scooch it all aside, and there's a trap door. So they go down into this other room, and there are these barrels down there, and they're like, oh, thank God, water. But they open them, and it's barrels of gunpowder, and a gate closes behind them. So it's another trap of the Phantoms.
Trap inside a trap.
So the Phantom asks, will she be the bride of Eric or watch her lover die? And he shows her this weird ass box. I don't understand the point of this whatsoever. It has a sculpture of a scorpion in it and a sculpture of a grasshopper, like big. They're like, it looks like maybe 12 inches long or something. And he says, if she turns the scorpion, they will marry. And if she turns the grasshopper, the opera house gets blown up.
Wait a minute. Okay. It's some jigsaw nonsense at this point.
It doesn't pay off in any way. I really don't understand it.
Okay.
So she agonizes, but then she turns the scorpion because she wants to save everybody.
I'll marry you to save everybody, yeah.
Which drains the black pond outside.
Good God.
But makes the water pour into the chamber where the dudes are now.
Oh, no.
So it's going to drown them. And she can hear them screaming and freaking out. And she finally says that she will do anything if he saves them. And then he instantly, like this is all he wanted to hear, like throws up this rug that was on the floor and opens a panel in the floor where the dudes are right there because they were like trying to like be in the 5 inches where there's not water. So he opens it and their faces are like right there. And they come out. She rushes to Raul and holds him, which pisses off the Phantom / makes him sad. He's like, yeah. Ooh,
right.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So during all this, the mob, who was upset that he killed that guy, has found the chamber and now they are all rushing in. The Phantom hears them and locks the door to the abode, grabs Christine and runs through the tunnels that were like behind the rooms he has in there up to the surface. Now this part is so awesome and so crazy and freaky that it might be my favorite part of it. He commandeers the carriage that Raul had waiting outside for them and drives away with her in the back. He looks truly scary and unhinged. He's like, yeah, into the horse to make them go like really fast.
Like the Headless Horseman.
Yes, he's like laughing and frantically running the horses, like making them go really fast. And she was passed out at some point during this. She passed out
like
in the
fainted
carriage
or something.
Yeah, and then she wakes up and she's like freaking out, obviously.
So much happens in this.
I know. This guy does not know how to drive this goddamn carriage. And eventually it just tips over and she falls out. And I was very surprised to see that they were still on the streets of Paris because the way they were going, I thought they'd made it to like the countryside. Like everything was like totally dark, but I mean, it just made it look so scary. So I'm thrilled. But they're just still on like the, lamplit streets of Paris or whatever. So she falls out and, the mob is like coming after him. So he runs away. He's like, oh God, I don't have time. I have to run because he's gonna get killed or whatever. And Raoul comes to Christine and they embrace. And that's the last we see of them. It's like, this is their happy. It's ending in a minute after
She's
this.
at least safe.
They're both safe there together, whatever.
Okay.
So he runs away with the mob chasing him with torches, and they get him cornered by the Seine River. And he stops them. There's like 2 staircases coming down and him in the middle on like a little platformy thing that you would look at the river or whatever. And he stops them and he raises his hand in the air and he's looking at his hand like he's got something in it and that they should like not come closer because he's got something or whatever. And then he just opens it and reveals that there's nothing there and that he's just screwing with them and starts cracking up. And so then they come from either side and just start beating him and throw him in the river.
Oh my God.
And you see bubbles come up from the river. And then there's a screen that says finis.
Wow. So he played one last theatrical trick to have one last moment where he felt in power over everybody.
Yeah, and knew that it was the end. And so just like showed it off. Like, I got you guys, laughed in their faces, and then essentially no, it would happen anyway, but like
brutally.
Yes, I was gonna say let them kill him, but like they would get it anyway. But
and thrown in the sun.
That is the other difference from the book, is that in the book, Eric, I guess, gets away and dies of a broken heart instead of the mob throwing him in the Seine.
Instead of a broken everything.
Yes.
Wow.
This is...
What a story, man.
It's good. It's good. It is worth watching.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations to you.
I know. I really lucked out when I lost this game because I would never have wanted to watch this in a million years.
Mm-hmm.
I truly thought that I was going to watch it for like 20 minutes and then skip to like, even though old, which is a minus for me, a more conventional movie. But I ended up liking it so much that I was like, I'm just going to do this.
Amazing. I'm definitely watching this.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's good.
Well done, Raj.
Thank you.
Well told and fascinating.
Yeah, it's very good. Hats off to Lon Chaney. He looks so scary, especially in that scene.
Yeah.
Like there were multiple times watching this where I was like, this is so cool. I can't believe this is just out here from like 1925.
Just sitting on Tubi.
This must have freaked the hell out of people.
Yeah.
It's good.
Did it this is partly like a setup for a joke or something, but did it expand a horizon for you in some way? Like, would you have any curiosity of looking at other things of the time? Or
I think that I would still be resistant because I'm just stubborn and set in my ways. But I now know that I can perfectly well be. I've experienced being pleasantly surprised. I obviously knew I could be, but now that I've experienced it, I would say I'm more likely.
Yeah, it's affirming.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Do you have anything you want to say to me?
Good job, old sport.
Thank you, or teaching you.
No. Okay. Anyway, that is the end of Guide to the Unknown. We really hope
forever.
Never. We really hope you enjoyed the episode, and we will be back next week for another one. As we said, you can find tons more at patreon.com/GTTUpod. We would love to have you over there. And you can also find us on social media. I am at Chillin' Kristen.
I'm at The Myth Traveler. That was a thrill ride, Raj.
Yeah.
I greatly enjoyed that.
Good.
Everybody Google Lon Chaney Phantom of the Opera. You got to see the makeup. In all likelihood, I feel like you might be like, oh, I've seen this before.
Definitely.
Because it is a very, very famous image. But it's worth looking at again if you haven't seen it in a while.
It is.
Holy
and
guacamole.
Seriously, I have no idea if this is even clipped out, so I'm not telling you to it'll be there, but try looking up Phantom of the Opera 1925 carriage scene or something.
Yeah.
He is unhinged.
I can't wait. I'm definitely going to watch this.
Yeah, it's really good.
And Lon Chaney also is like horror film, especially royalty.
Yeah.
And then Lon Chaney Jr., his son, would go on to be in the later the Universal monster movies that people think of as being Universal monster movies, where he's like the Wolf Man.
Right. This is Universal, and then they remade it and added a score to it first. It was still dialogue silent, but I think they colorized it and added a score.
Okay.
And then remade it with dialogue and changed a lot of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is in the Universal vein.
Yeah, I was always surprised because I did think that he was a love man, not a killer, a sickie.
I think maybe he's only a love man, and like I said, like a very questionable gray, they often call it. Romance interest. I think just starting in the
but
Broadway
to be
play.
clear, by love man, what I mean by that
No, I know,
well-known
I know.
phrase is a monster who's not really a monster. He's a misunderstood love person. Which does nothing to define what I just said, but like Beauty and the Beast.
He wants love.
He wants love. All he
Yeah.
ever wanted was love, and he's truly nice if you just get to know him. If only
Yeah.
someone would get to know him. So that was like the Disney Beauty and the Beast.
I think it's more ambiguous where he has killed and stuff, and yet she loves him for all his faults. I think.
But no, it sounds what you just described to me appropriately like he is a goddamn monster.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there were times in his life previously where things could have been different, except he continually was sometimes forced and mostly chose paths of evil and violence and control and abuse.
Yeah, I mean,
which is what a monster is. That makes him a universal monster. I was curious about that.
Yes, it seems like maybe in his early life he was a victim of circumstance.
Yeah.
If he was born with these physical characteristics that other people don't have, and I guess he was also born during the Boulevard Massacre.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell that is.
Yeah.
But then he made terrible choices.
Okay, interesting.
Just terrible things.
Well, Dynamite, everybody.
Yeah.
Our lives have all been enriched, I feel.
Yes, definitely. Yet I'm now a scholar of the arts.
You are. It's true, Kristen. It's true.
Yeah.
So thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Please consider leaving this podcast a review if you've enjoyed what you heard.
Yeah, I would love that.
We'd greatly appreciate that. Go check out patreon.com/GTTUpod to 1, support us, 2, gain access to our Discord and get to know other people in our little community here, and 3, get access to a ton of shows if you do it. Check out those tiers, everybody. Patreon.com/GTTUpod. We'll see you next week. I think we're gonna hit the streets, so to speak. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. The rest of you are just gonna have to wait and see what happens.
It's a mystery to me right now as well.
But until we next meet, we must travel.
Back to the netherworld, go we.
I loved that.
Oh, good.
I dare say I'd be
I was
curious
shocked.
to.
I really was genuinely very surprised.
I think someday I could envision us doing a look at the adaptations of that, because I love that as like this is what it was.
Right.
And then I'm curious because it's also like one of the most parodied things in the world, where it's like
The Mask is such a perfect icon and like shorthand for what this is.
yes, absolutely. I'd be curious. I could see this being like a fun.
Yeah, I would. I think the main draw, I will say, there were a lot of other cool things, but Lon Chaney's look itself,
Yeah, definitely,
is
definitely.
like so weird and appealing to look at.
Well, I am also curious to see if they did indeed defang it to make it be that like, just nobody understood you. You're
think
you're a good boy.
Maybe not until Broadway, but I think kind of.
Yeah, I'm curious about
Yeah.
that. Well, we shall see someday. I dare say. I don't know.
I dare say.
I dare say.